the vertical ones. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and mark these up with their parts, just like I did with the ellipse. I just want to let you know the parts are the same for both. The only difference is one's up and down, the other one's left and right. Okay. Otherwise, all the things are the same. Okay. All right. So the set of horizontal hyperbola, they have a center like an ellipse. Okay. We'll call that the center here.
Wait, so it's like offset though?
Well, yeah, because I'm not drawing it on the origin of the graph.
Oh.
Okay. The center is going to basically be the point that's halfway between the two curves, the midpoint of them. Okay. And next, it's got what's known as a transverse axis.
It's like the side of a basketball.
It does look like the side of a basketball. Okay.
Very good, Holden.
Okay. And so the transverse axis is basically the line between the two. It's the gap, basically. Okay. It's the line between the two, going through the two vertices of these. Okay. And the length of the transverse axis, okay, or actually the length of half of it, is A. Okay. So we can think of that there as being A. Basically, A is the length from the center to one of the two hyperbolas. Okay? Any questions there? Alright. Like
Wait, I don't see why that's like why the center is not on the axis.
Huh?
I don't see why the center is not on the axis.
Okay, if it bothers you so much, I'll just
Oh, so it's like not supposed to.
It's not supposed to, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
Okay? But there, is that better?
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
The center is it's like the center of an ellipse. It doesn't have to be on the XY axis at all. It could be anywhere. Alright, and I just drew
I
it.
guess I'm just like.
It's alright. Okay. But, okay, yeah. There you have it, okay? The next part here, just like a parabola, just like an ellipse, these things have focuses. Okay? And the number C, that C we keep seeing, is the distance from the center to the focus. Okay? But those are all your pieces. So over here on the vertical one, all that would get repeated just for the vertical, just flipped for the vertical direction. Okay? Any questions about that? Anything wild or crazy there? Another piece or part that needs an explanation? It's pretty straightforward, right? Alright. Let's take a look at the equations for hyperbola. Okay?
What's it called? The transverse axis?
Transverse axis.
And that's in both those places?
Yeah, basically the transverse axis is the distance between vertex to vertex of your hyperbola. Okay? And the measurement for it is determined by A, which is actually from the center to one of the hyperbolas. Okay? So like the total length of the axis would actually be 2A. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. Okay? Don't worry too much about that. Alright?
Can you keep that up first?
Oh, keep it up.
Thanks.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, it has been there. It doesn't help that it's raining.
And that they made that free day joke.
Well, if you think about it, today would have been a bad day for a free day.
Today would have been
Because of all the sports that was
fall. That was not.
No, today would have been horrible.
Today would have sucked completely.
Spring was awesome because they had chapel, and at the very end they told us Mondays when we were free day.
Oh, so you're just...
That's what I was hoping they would do again this year.
I don't think they don't do that because then you waste it. Like you have like a chunk after dinner where
Then you
you
realize
waste
you
it.
don't have to go to school for it.
No.
Well,
Brutal.
I suspect they're going to do a free day.
It's gonna be after the
I was going to say it's going to be the day after, it's going to be the Monday after the Special Olympics. The reason I say that is because
Oh, I've heard that.
you've got the Special Olympics all day on Sunday. Okay, then Monday there's an advising dinner and chapel Monday night instead, so that makes a perfect ending for the free day. So basically, you know, they would just announce. That would be my guess. Now,
What
I
day
Have
is
just,
that?
chapel on your
Yes.
free day night, and your free day technically shouldn't end until study hall.
well, ends at dinner.
What
Ends at dinner. That's what the last one did.
what
No, it's not.
16.
The last one we had a.
Is it
We had-
Tuesday?
Yeah, so we had.
Anyway.
What day is that? Is that in May?
I don't give a shit.
Huh?
The Special
Alright,
Olympics?
so
No, it's
A
like the
is the
last-
same for.
So it's
It's after
last
formal.
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah.
The 26th.
I think it's coming after formal too.
Yeah. Alright,
So A goes from the center
center to
to
the vertex.
vertex,
Is
and
the,
Z goes from focus to center.
Yep. Okay. Everyone got that? Alright. I'm going to go ahead now and we're going to do the equations for the hyperbola. Okay? And by the way, again, I didn't mark it over here on the vertical one. Just translate all that over, turn it 90 degrees for the vertical, you get the same deal. Okay? Nothing is different. Okay? Now, for hyperbola, okay, basically, hyperbola, to tell whether it's vertical or horizontal is actually really easy to do because of the way these things are. If x is first, it's horizontal. If y is first, it's vertical. Okay? Makes sense, right? And the reason why is because of the equation for it. For horizontal ones, okay, the equation is going to be x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. It looks exactly like an ellipse, except that's a minus instead of a plus. Okay?
So if it was,
Just ellipse essentially.
Basically, kind of, not quite flipped,
so
it's
it's
flipping.
Y.
Okay. So, I'm sorry?
If Y minus K, if it was Y minus K squared over B squared minus X minus H squared, it would be.
It'd be vertical, except the A and the B always stay in the same spot. So the
Oh.
vertical one
And
would be y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. Make that look more like a k. There we go. Alright? And so that also makes life a lot easier. Unlike an ellipse, okay, the transverse axis does not have to be the bigger of the two numbers between a and b. In fact, it's always the number that's underneath the whatever the first variable is. Okay? So for a horizontal one, whatever number is beneath x, that's going to be the transverse axis. For vertical, whatever number is beneath y, that's the transverse axis. Okay? B could be bigger than A in both these cases, and it doesn't matter. A is still the transverse axis. Okay? So in that regard, it makes things a little bit easier. Okay? You just go with whatever's first. Okay? Make sense? Alright. There you have it. So, basically all the pieces, the center, nothing changes there, it's H and K. And it doesn't matter if they flip-flop, it's still H and K. Okay, it's my center. Alright. The transverse axis is whatever A is. Okay? C now, the number for your focus C does change. So it's not going to be A squared minus B squared. It's A squared plus B squared. Actually, the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? There you have it there. Okay? And so finally, the eccentricity then, okay, is still going to be C over A. But what's going to be special then? Which is going to be bigger, C or A? C. So in this case, my eccentricity is going to be greater than 1. Okay? While with the ellipse it was between 0 and 1, for a hyperbola it's always greater than 1. And in fact, actually, we can now make ourselves a little chart of eccentricities, if you will. My eccentricity, basically, when E is equal to 0, you have a circle. If 0 is less than E, which is less than 1, you have an ellipse. Okay? When E is equal to 1, you have a parabola. And when E is greater than 1, you've got a hyperbola. Okay? So, you can think of it as this way. Circles don't have any eccentricity because they're perfectly round. Ellipses, which are squished, have an ellipse, have an eccentricity between 0 and 1. Parabola is like you've squished the ellipse so far down it's finally snapped and becomes just a regular curve. Okay, it has an eccentricity of 1. A hyperbola means I squish it so much it's almost come undone and created 2 curves, and so it has to be bigger than 1. Okay, makes sense? Kind of.
Not for the hyperbola one,
But for everything else it does. Okay. Hyperbolas, almost think of it like, I wish I could give a better analogy, but I really can't.
it's like hard, dude. It doesn't really make sense. Like,
Yeah.
like.
But the first three do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like weird that it becomes 2 lines, like when all the other ones are.
Think of it almost like this. If I took a circle and started squeezing it in, okay,
And then we're like,
it's going to get flatter and flatter and flatter, okay? And as it gets flatter, my eccentricity increases until I hit 1, which push. But if I can somehow keep going, they would flip, right?
And good joke. Okay, I got
And
you.
that would give you the hyperbola. Okay. After, of course, they break into the curves. Okay. But that would be so from just the eccentricity, I can tell what sort of object it is. Okay. Any questions right here of all this? All right. Excellent. So for homework tonight, I've got assigned some problems where you're just doing the same sort of deal. Now, there's one final thing that hyperbolas have that we should go over, okay? Notice how up here, I've got this number b, okay? And besides figuring out the focus number, the b didn't really do anything, right? Just seemed to be there. Well,
Be there.
be there. It actually does have a purpose, okay? And that's to help you find the asymptotes of a hyperbola, okay? Okay? Basically, hyperbola have 2 asymptotes, okay? That they kind of run along, okay? If I were to draw a hyperbola, it doesn't matter if it's vertical or horizontal, so I'll draw a horizontal one, okay? Alright, basically the asymptotes are 2 straight lines going through the center like so, okay? That on the outskirts of the hyperbola eventually hugs, okay? So you can take a, so these are going to be the 2 asymptotes. Okay? And the equations for them are fairly easy to find, okay? So it all depends, okay? So the equations, so those asymptotes, the equations are for the horizontal, it's y equals k plus or minus b over a times x minus h. Okay?
We got lost one.
So mine is
B over a. Okay?
the wasp.
The wasp is back.
Oh no.
Back again.
It's like in the way.
Escape in the lane.
He's been coming in and out of here all day.
Why wasn't he dead yet? Like, he was-
I don't know.
Maybe
It's
it's
probably
a
a different
different-
wasp.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the same wasp. I'm not that worried about the wasp. He's done nothing harmful all day.
Tommy killed the wasp, bro.
Darn it, will save us all if it comes to you guys. Hey, Garnet?
Darn is scared of wasps.
Going to darn it's
All right.
dark.
For vertical, the equation's all the same. The only difference is instead of being b over a, it's a over b. Okay? That's the only difference. Okay? So, the equations for the asymptotes of a horizontal hyperbola would be this top one, or a vertical hyperbola, this bottom one. Okay? Any questions there? I'll let you copy down. Do you need a pen?
Yeah.
Yours just dying.
Yeah.
I'm not liking this rain.
Thanks.
This rain is seriously cramping my style.
Sorry. I don't like the fact that it just feels like this room is hot. It's also very humid. Okay?
Who's bad?
And so like